where most of the information was put on the right side. And it made it more pleasing for people to read, where if I were to change everything to the right side, it's gonna look a little odd. So let me do that to demonstrate it for you guys. Me switching some of the stuff on the right side, and it's gonna feel different. And it's okay for it to feel different, but having to do so, you're gonna understand what I'm saying. So now with having the stuff on the left side instead of the right, you'll notice how it's a little different. It's a little in some sense almost unsettling, just because we're not used to reading things that way, or seeing things that way. Um, so when you have everything on the left side, it just seems too chaotic sometimes. But knowing how to place that or place things on the left side is also beneficial. So this is the element of balance, knowing how to balance your objects to know how it is pleasing for the eye. So now, even though some of the stuff is going to be on the left side, um, I'm going to group them so that it's more comfortable for the eye to see.
Hey, Faceless, something really interesting is happening where we're actually seeing the mirror image. I think because you're using like a front-facing cam.
Oh, okay.
So that I just wanted to clarify that for everyone because I was a bit confused. I've also started recording this just so we can share it with them in the community if all goes according to plan. Faceless, just want to let you know that.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm cool with that. Okay, so now see how everything just shift, and even though it's on the left side, it doesn't seem as chaotic. Um, and this comes down to the rule of thirds. Now, in the rule of thirds in composition is basically grouping or dividing the horizontal lines into three, and the horizontal and then the verticals. So if you guys want to follow me on this, let's go ahead and do 3 lines horizontally, and then 3 vertically, do 2 vertically. So we're splitting the image into these boxes. Let me know if everybody's got that done.
All right, I'm good.
Give it a few more.
We're good.
Awesome. All right. So now, if you notice, there are these points in which the lines meet. This is called the viewpoints. Now, these points is where the eye is more comfortable in seeing. So when working with composition and still life, you want to try and use these viewpoints to set your still life. And when you're working in the middle, you want to obviously have that here. But since we're working with the stuff being on the left side, that structure is called the L structure. Why? Because if you look at it, the wine bottle is on the vertical grid of the space. And so now why this works is because since the wine bottle is at this part of the viewpoint, it's okay. It's easy for your eyes to read compared to if it was on the far left, completely all the way towards the wall. It would seem a little different. It would seem a little uncomfortable. Now, if you notice, the blue vase is almost on the horizontal plane, right? So now we have the wine bottle, the vase, and now we have the other vase, which is on the right side. So that structure is the L shaped structure, right? And that works the same way when you make an opposite L, we can say, backwards L. So if we can, let's go ahead and start drawing the bottle down to the teapot, the the tin can, and then the vase, and then we'll draw the other vase last. So let's go ahead and use the vertical line to place the wine bottle. And if you guys have any questions while I'm doing this, or if I'm moving too fast, don't hesitate to say, like, hey, just give me a few minutes. Now, one thing that's interesting while we're doing this is these techniques were used down to the Renaissance era and even way before that. And it's interesting to know how, for like for example, the Renaissance era, this was like a religion, knowing composition and knowing how to place these these items or objects was so important because it demonstrated not only the skill of understanding how the human mind reads a painting, but also it showed the understanding of creating something in a plane of realism. And that's why these artists were so well in creating things and made it look so real because of understanding composition and how the eye moves, the perspective of things, and the way they use space and negative space, which we will touch into in a little bit. Awesome. So something to, observe is you see the L shape, how once we get the last item, um, we'll make the L-shaped structure. Now, if you notice as well, there are odd numbers of objects in the still life. Now, this is called the rule of odds. This would also work with just 3 items, and it helps so that everything is not too even, because we already have the plane, on the back where, it shows the dimension, the corner space. And so this makes it readable for the person to move their eyes around. Now, the L-shaped structure helps the viewer's eye move, because if you look at the wine bottle, that's the first thing you see. So that from there helps you move to the teapot, from the teapot to the tin can, and then the vase, and then up to the last vase on the right. And that helps the reader move their eyes around, helps them see every detail, not just the wine bottle, not just the teapot, and in still life, that's what you want to create. You want to help the viewer move the eye around, help them see that this is not just some objects, also um, but also this is something that helps them understand the depths and understand why there's certain objects in certain places, or why they're grouped in certain ways. I'll give you guys a few more, and then we'll draw the last one. Now, if you look at my paper, you see how everything falls down into the viewpoints, where the tin can is almost in the middle. And that's okay. That helps the viewer understand it more, compared to if all of this was on the far left and there was too much space in the middle, then the viewer is going to be left with nothing to see, except just that there's some items on the far left. So now if we can, let's go ahead and draw the last vase as well.
So Faceless, are you saying that we as the artist kind of have to reframe the still life so that it fits into this grid to make it a easily digestible image or artwork?
Yeah, yes, correct. Because
you
these
basically
viewpoints,
have shifted everything over a little bit to fit into the grid, whereas like it's a little bit off frame. The teapot's a little bit off frame in the actual like view of it.
right. Yeah, so doing this in some way, even though it's not in the middle, but it's in the middle. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because even though these objects are not here, yeah, it's here, which is a weird effect that happens. And that's why these viewpoints work. They work because it helps the eye understand that although it is not technically all in the middle, it's still in the middle. And that's an effect that a lot of these Renaissance used, which is quite a very interesting topic and a strategy in a way, because then it did not make the art piece too congested. It didn't make the piece too much for the eye to see. So having this grid, or the rule of thirds, helps with doing that. So let me know when you guys are done, so I can show you how that works. And this will also work if the items were to be on the right side.
Which they are for, well,
I'm saying like if the wine bottle were to be on the right
uh,
side instead on the left. All right. Seems like most of you guys are done almost. Now I want you to go ahead and place your drawing in front of you and tell me what you see first. We can start with Maddie. What do you see? What is the first object you see first?
I think it's the wine bottle because I started with it.
What about you guys?
Wine bottle.
Wine bottle.
I see the red paint thing first. I don't know what that is.
That's like a tin can.
Yeah, I think.
I actually saw the one that's like on the right, the one that's alone first.
Awesome. Okay, so all of that is correct, and I'm gonna tell you why, and why some of you were to notice the wine bottle first. Now, when we're drawing still life, even though I stated, hey, draw the wine bottle first, but for most artists, it's something that we tend to do because it's the farthest object towards the back, which makes it easier for us not only to draw, but also to notice because of the vertical plane um, and because of the viewpoint. Now, the reason why some of you may have seen, let's say, the far right vase is because of leading lines. What does that mean? All right, so if you notice um, by the teapot and the blue vase, there's a line that goes almost towards you, right? Towards the bottom of the picture. So let's go ahead and do that line. Now, if you also notice, there's one on the far right. Let's draw that, but very slightly because we're gonna be erasing it. So it's very light. Why does this work? Because leading lines help direct and guide the viewer into looking into what you want them to see. So obviously when drawing still life, you know, for some they see the bottle because we're used to being able to see things more, not vertically, but things on the background. But then some were able to see the small vase because of these lines. Why? Because these lines, although let's say they're almost parallel to each other, they create a space in between. Now this space allows the viewer to you guide them to see this, right? Now let's erase this and let's bring this line. Actually, no, let's keep that line and let's bring this line here. And we can erase this one. Yeah, I'll draw it a little darker for you guys to see. Now, because the space in between this line got smaller, your eye, for the most part, will be drawn to see this first. Because of the lines that are, let's say if the red were to be closer, the red fabric were to have been closer to that vase on the right side, this is what we will notice first. And you can almost see that if you put your paper in front of you, because of those lines, you're gonna see that. That's the first thing your eye catches, is that space in between those lines. And it's also a weird effect, and why some Renaissance used that as perspective and put a dot in the middle, and then use those two lines to get drawn in right into the subject matter, into the middle, right? And it's a weird type of effect, but it works. And it's what we consider, or what is considered in the art industry as the leading lines, which I'm pretty sure in figure drawing, leading lines is also important. There's a main shape or form of a line that helps construct everything else. So now we can erase this and go back to what we see, which the line being here. Now, another interesting thing using lines in still life is it helps create dimension and depth between objects, right? So if you look by the wine bottle, there's that line that goes straight down. Let's go ahead and draw that line. And now let's go ahead and draw a line down here. You guys can see. Right. So now, Maddie, you see how earlier you said, well, even though it's almost, you shifted the items towards the middle a little bit. These lines help create that this is still on the right side of what you see in the other camera on the still life. Because now these two lines help create that dimension, help create that everything is on the right side. I mean, on the left side, sorry, on the left side. And so lines like this, it's important. Why? Because when you're painting or drawing still life, you want to show them that there's more stuff, you know, that there's dimension. It's not just a plain object. You know, if you look at our drawing just went from 2-dimension to 3 with just these two lines. And that's always important to know in still life. It's always important to know where these lines are, because that's basically, it's what's going to bring your still life to become 3-dimensional, even though we're drawing a 2-dimensional thing. And lines are just weird. Lines are so weird, but it's amazing to study. All right. Does anybody have any questions so far? No? Awesome. So let's continue with lines. Now, if you'll know in still life, at least in this one as well, you'll see that there's a lot of negative space. Negative space basically means empty spaces in an area. Now, why that it's okay in still life is because you want to help the viewer move the eyes around, help them know that, hey, your main objects are here. If I were to film everything and leave no negative space, it's gonna make the reader feel like, okay, this is too much. This is way too much, too many things, it's too congested. And so this is where a term that a lot of artists like to use, which is sometimes negative space is not so negative, but a positive, because it helps create that. Because like I'll demonstrate if I'll put more objects in, and then you'll feel and almost see like, damn, there's just way too much going on.
So then as part of the art of still life, being able to either recognize well-placed objects to draw or building still lifes yourself so that you can render great images.
Yes, correct. Because when you're able to make something pleasing for the eye to see, the the painting or drawing becomes more enjoyable. And knowing that, or being able to analyze objects that we already know, it's comforting for humans. And it's a weird way that our brain works, that when we know something or something is symmetrical, it makes us feel comfort, because now look how congested everything is and you don't know where to look at. Your eye goes, okay, there's a cow um cup, we could say, a vase, um there's a fruit in the back, which is a squash, there's a cube in the middle that just kind of overtakes everything. Now there's an egg, you know, and it just becomes way too congested. And that's why balance within composition is important, and it's like an element to create better still life. So you see how all of that works. Too much stuff is too congested and your eyes don't even know where to look at. And that's an effect that you don't want to give. Hey Osama, how you doing? All right. I'm gonna
Sorry, I'm
remove
late.
It's okay, no worries. I'll go ahead and remove those objects now. Now going back to that, and what you see now, it's more readable, it's more pleasing. Your eyes don't go everywhere, and it helps understand the drawing better. So Sama, to kind of catch you up on things. So I just describe what the rule of thirds is, which is dividing the horizontal plane and the vertical plane as a grid, and the points that meet are what considered the viewpoints, which is what is pleasing for the eye to see. For the most part, that's what it is. And so now when balancing your still life, you want to stay within these grids and then drawing them as well, so that your photo or your painting or your drawing can be readable. And you'll see that there's almost an L-shaped structure here, where there's the wine bottle in the back, you know, there's the teapot, and then there's this vase. That's called the L-shaped structure, which also works on the right side, and it's a backwards L, but we're doing it, you know, left side, it's fine. um, and being able to do so and using this grid helps almost in some way not have to put everything in the middle in some sort, even though it kind of is.
Okay, Faceless. So we're now at 35 minutes into this.
Right.
We want to leave some time at the end for just free drawing of the
Yeah, definitely.
still life.
Yeah, because
So I just wanted to give you a sense of your timing.
yeah, like, because now since we already did the line work, I'm now gonna just describe the negative space, which gives us the time to draw the fabric in the back. So we can go ahead and draw the fabric in the back. And we can, the way I enjoy doing it is first lining out everything from where it starts to where it ends. So it's, you know, it starts on the top left-hand corner and it almost ends on the right side. And you know that because of the way the fabric is laid and how the lines go down towards the right. So now negative space, like I was describing, in still life can be a positive because you don't want to congest all the space. You don't want to take up all the space and it be too much for the reader to understand and see, because then you just not only lose your vocal point and what you want the viewer to see, but then it becomes almost uncomfortable. And one thing that's interesting about composition is this is not only just a technique done in or that you would see in still life, but also in photography and advertisement, design. Composition is such a it's almost like a religion in some way. Just because if you're able to please the human eye and what they're seeing, then you just made a pleasing art piece. And in advertisement, as like I was stating, back in the 1950s, they would place most of the objects on the right side than on the left, because in Western culture we read from left to right. But then having to understand that most of the information would be on the right, it made it easier for us to not only grasp but understand. And it's an interesting concept to think about, because if you notice, some artists, when they're selling their art piece, they stand on the right side of their artwork when they're presenting something than on the left.